But like Mahomes setting the tone when he first got there. We talked about that. Saying not only there was last year not fun, but like Xavier Worthy better buckle up because we're going right away. And then the first practice, just immediately, like here it comes. Chris Jones dressing down the defensive line after a bad 11-on-11 drive. Like, we're not even in August. And the leaders of the team, the three leaders of the team, like you're seeing already this mentality of like, hey, it's time now, right now. I mean, that to me speaks volumes about where they are mentally.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome into That Football Show here on KC Sports Network, presented by our friends at Holiday Distillery and Ben Holiday, bottled in Bond Bourbon. Make sure you go check them out, especially when you're in the Kansas City area. Their distillery sits like right in the middle of Kansas City and St. Joe. Look, if you need a little bit of a pit stop, I got a spot for you. Holiday Distillery.
Wake me up.
Yeah, I got a great little breakfast spot for you. Holiday Distillery. Go check them out. I'm Tucker Franklin, joined as always by Matt Verderame. Matt, how you doing?
I'm good. I am starting my camp tour on Tuesday, and I will be in St. Joe's on August 1st, Thursday. So I am looking forward to getting going and seeing the Chiefs.
I've been out there every day that they've had practice so far. Jury's still out for Saturday. When I went to go grab Saturday tickets, they were sold out. It's one of the $5 like family fun days, so those obviously sell out quicker. So I'm still in the market for Saturday tickets. If anyone listening has Saturday tickets that they have an extra one of, hit me up on Twitter at Tucker D. Franklin. I will gladly oblige, and I will Venmo you for it. I will compensate you for it.
But pay double.
Yeah, I will pay double for it. I will go out on the limb and say that I will pay double for it.
First, all this to Kissel,
right? I send an itemized report. On this show, we love 5-star reviews, and we love you guys listening to the show. We did get a 5-star review. I think this happened like a couple of weeks ago, but I forgot to mention it. But thank you to JF Hounds for your 5-star review on Apple Podcast. He says, I enjoy all the KCSN content, and I am glad Craig is okay. But Tucker asked for feedback for that football show, so here it is. I enjoy the content, pacing, chemistry, plus the humor. They all combined with Matt and Tucker going back and forth makes this show I don't miss. Thanks, JF. Look, man, I'm just glad somebody else finds this funny.
So am I. Because like today, the last time we did the show, and we're not going to do this again, but we had like an 18-minute intro about college football. And my father, who watches every show that I'm on religiously, God bless the man, sent me a text. He's like, good show. Got to be honest, intro is too long. 18 minutes. I was like, thanks, Dad.
We saw a lot of comments similar to that. We had to tighten it up. But look, it was a monumental day. It was a big day. A big week.
We're going to make it up to all of you fine people by just leading immediately with the Chiefs. Since now there's real football. That was the problem. There wasn't anything to talk about. Now there's actual stuff to talk about. We can start with talking about your viral highlight clip that you tweeted out of Xavier Worthy catching a ball to Mahomes through approximately 9,000 yards off his back foot, like while running away from the middle of the field and hitting him in stride, which we haven't seen Xavier Worthy essentially since that play. But that play might be enough to make the first-round pick worth it.
An incredible just kind of walk-off moment. Now, it wasn't necessarily like your walk-off, like he didn't stop practicing after then, but like he basically has.
He just left it handy and been like, oh, I'm done.
It's like, I'll see you September 5th. That's what he should have said. But it is reported that he is dealing with a case of strep throat. Yes. I understand. Look, I've had strep throat before. It sucks. And it's maybe one of the worst things that I think illnesses I've ever had. I understand him not practicing like that physically. I wouldn't want to do anything, but also like in terms of just like spreading that around, you don't want a case of strep throat going around your team. That would be less than ideal at training camp. But back to Xavier Worthy in that throw, Matt, I was kind of telling you before we started recording, there was a ton of people up at St. Joe. That was the first day of practice. And I loved that the Chiefs were like, you know what, first day of practice, you know what we're going to do? We're going to work on the deep ball today. And they haven't really worked on the deep ball since. I've been at every practice. They've done a lot of like third and short or red zone type stuff. Nothing that where they're really airing the ball out. But But they aired the ball out on day one, and they gave the people who showed up for day one of Chiefs training camp a show. And look, I know a lot of people focus on like Worthy being on the end of that, but like the throw from Mahomes is legitimately one of the top 3 throws I think I've ever seen in my life, and he just nonchalantly rolls out to his left.
Yeah,
the way he's able to. This is the thing too it's so astonishing to me. The way he's able to flip his hips one way and then flip his hips back the other way to generate like the torque to get that ball 60 plus yards down the field and hit him perfectly in stride, which perfectly in stride does have something to do with Xavier Worthy's ball tracking ability. That's nice to see. He's got great ball tracking ability. Patrick Mahomes has tried to connect deep with other wide receivers that haven't necessarily tracked the ball as well as Xavier Worthy did on that play. But just for that to happen, all of those factors together, it was just perfect. It was a perfect storm of just generating Chiefs hype, because that's what we've been talking about all offseason.
Yeah, look, I mean, to me, what you just mentioned is the most impressive part of the play. Other than, like, all right, well, let me put this aside. Mahomes' throw is the most impressive part of the play.
Yeah.
But in terms of Worthy, the most impressive part, people were talking about, oh, look how fast he is. He got behind Cook. He got behind the... It was his ability to track the football.
Yeah, right.
Like, he was tracking that ball 65 plus yards. I mean, that is not easy. That is not some ball that's 20 yards, 25 yards. I mean, you're talking, that's further than most punts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a ball that and it's not like you're tracking it like on a punt, you're looking up at it and you've got guys coming down towards you, but you have nobody near you. When you're tracking that ball, you got Brian Cook right on your back. Like, right. You're trying to track that ball. You're making sure you're not running out of the end zone. You're finding where you are. I mean, that's one of the hardest things to do in football. And you see times all the time in games, 40, 45 yards down the field where a guy is open and has a step, but he can't really track the ball. He loses where he is, or he loses the ball for a quick second, and then all of a sudden the timing's off and they don't connect. I thought the fact that he tracked that ball that far down the field, that was the thing that I walked away from that being like, that kid can do that. That's pretty good news. And then I think it was actually earlier in the practice, he had a catch where he kind of had to turn and leap for the ball. And granted, it wasn't 65 yards downfield. It was probably 25, 30. But still, like, it's an adjustment. The ball's behind you a little bit. You got to make that play in traffic. That's the stuff I get excited about. It's the speed I know he has. And watching him at Texas, even the little bit that I did, like, you can tell he can run routes. That's all good. I know he can do that. If you can high point the ball, if you can track the ball like that, that's the kind of stuff that separates you. It was one of the things Tyreek Hill was so great at in Kansas City. She found the ball. He could do that. He wasn't the biggest guy, but he could find the ball in tight quarters. And if Worthy can do that, that's going to be huge.
Oh yeah, it is disappointing that we haven't seen Worthy back on the field, because I did love his practice that he had on Monday was a good practice. You mentioned he did have other plays and other highlights from Monday's practice, but Patrick Mahomes really building the trust with all those receivers. There's been a couple of really good catches from Hollywood Brown, and there's been some wide receivers that have struggled. Nico Remigio actually had a really good practice on Wednesday. That was when Justin Watson went down with his injury. He suffered on 7-on-7, foot injury. Yeah. He came in and he didn't really miss a beat. I think Nico Remigio would be a good ad for this team. It's going to be really interesting. But Matt, I want to ask you, what has kind of been your biggest takeaway from this camp so far? 4 practices in, the pads come on. We're recording this on Thursday morning, so the pads come on Friday morning. What's your biggest takeaway so far?
You know what? Honestly, not to be like overly philosophical on it, I think the sense of urgency is the right word, or words, but like the edge that they've had. I mean, We saw Karlaftis deck Toney, and then Kelsey kind of getting in Karlaftis' face because you have to. That's your deal. But like Mahomes setting the tone when he first got there. We talked about that. Saying not only there was last year not fun, but like Xavier Worthy better buckle up because we're going right away. And then the first practice, just immediately, like, here it comes. Chris Jones dressing down the defensive line after a bad 11-on-11 drive. Like, we're not even in August. And the leaders of the team, the 3 leaders of the team, like, you're seeing already this mentality of like, hey, it's time now, right now. I mean, that to me speaks volumes about where they are mentally. Physically speaking, look, you could talk about different things. You could talk about the receivers. You could talk about the corner rotation. You could talk about the rotation on left tackle. But I think my biggest takeaway is just how they seem very intense now. Not, waiting for August 10th after a preseason game. Not like right now, which I think speaks to how badly they like to three-peat and make history.
I was sitting right there when Chris Jones kind of came over and he was chewing on the defensive line, and I was trying to listen into what he was saying. Right, he was getting after him. I thought that was a really interesting moment in just kind of telling of like where the headspace of this team was. I didn't necessarily think that like the 11-on-11 was bad. Like it didn't seem like it was a bad period for the defense. Offense kind of seems like they've had a little bit of miscommunication issues sometimes, but like that happens when you're rotating a bunch of guys in, and it's early in camp, right? We've had 4 days of camp. But on the defensive side of the ball, I didn't necessarily see anything that was too bad. But Chris Jones obviously did, and he let them know, and he fired him up for what literally happened. That next like team session was the George Karlaftis, and one thing I've noticed about the defense too, Brian Cook is a pest. I will say this when it comes to guys when they finish their plays, right? Because they're not going to the ground, right? They're keeping them up. Brian Cook is always on the hip of the person who's trying to finish the play, trying to run it in the end zone, and he's trying to punch the ball out. The defense wants to be pests. They want to be annoying. So they're going to do whatever they can to get under the offensive skin. Now, George Karlaftis leveling Kadarius Toney, you probably shouldn't do that, right, when there's no pads on and everything like that. But I do think the mentality of this team, you can clearly tell where they're at. And I think that is kind of different than what you've seen from other teams that have gone even from back-to-back Super Bowls, like from reigning Super Bowl champions. I don't know if you've seen a mindset quite like this. Like they're ready to go. They're hungry. And it's clear. And there's not a whole lot of starting position battles. There's one starting position battle that we're talking about, essentially. I guess cornerback 2 as well would be a starting position battle. But there's not very many starting position battles on this team. So I think that helps them kind of get in, pick up the pace, and get going ready for the season. That's what good teams do. Like good teams, you're arguing about wide receiver 6 and linebacker 4 and all that. But that's what we're doing here. But they have not picked up. They've just picked up right where they left off.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is a team that when you look at the roster, really, other than a left tackle, which is significant. Yeah. I mean, what are we really looking at in terms of a roster battle? Like wide receiver 6. Yeah, that's probably the biggest question I keep getting from people. Like, hey, who do you think is going to be the number 6 receiver on the team? Like, if that's the biggest question you have, it's probably a pretty good team. Like if that's the biggest concern. And I think it's interesting. Hell, you could argue it with that right now. I mean, Watson, we'll see what's going on with his foot, but Remigio's been the guy everybody's watching, and then you have Skyy Moore, who it's not been a great start to camp. No, I feel like every time I see a highlight of them throwing the ball down the field, like Skyy Moore is just getting absolutely bodied by some corner and press coverage. And then Kadarius Toney is maybe a running back now, or like some combination of things. So that's interesting. Like I don't know what to do. Like you've been there every day. What do you think about what's going on with Kadarius Toney?
I think it's interesting. I think that they're just trying to figure out what else they can do with him. Because clearly the wide receiver experiment hasn't necessarily worked out. Look, also we should be throwing parades in the street for him practicing 4 times in training camp. Because this is the most he's ever practiced in a training camp in his career, which is kind of wild to say. But he has lasted 4 days in an Andy Reid training camp. That's a lot longer than John Ross lasted. Because he got here and said, you know what, I'm hanging it up. But anyway, I think just finding other ways to use him is interesting. I can't remember who it was that tweeted out like a mixtape, basically, of just like Kadarius Toney running the sprint option with Patrick Mahomes. That could be fun. Like just having him in a spot where it's a predetermined hole to run through. You don't have to necessarily read a defense all that well. We're just going to hand you the ball, run through this hole, and you can make your kind of magic happen. You don't have to catch the ball either. We can just give it to you. Might work out for him. Like, that might just work out. And I think it could give a little extra life to his time on the Chiefs. I don't know how much extra time. I know that the Chiefs were kind of in a spot where they're in a tough spot where they couldn't really move on. Like, they would have to eat a decent amount of money if they were to move on from him. So just trying to make lemonade out of lemons, I think, is what they're trying to do here.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I just don't understand, like, the whole Toney thing. I get that people sit there and say, well, he's talented. He's talented. Okay. I mean, he's talented. That's fine. It's kind of like a baseball, like a pitcher who throws 98 miles an hour, but might hit a fan in the third row with the fastball.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I mean, yeah, sure, he's talented. Like, he can throw the fastball, but doesn't mean he's good.
Right.
I mean, we're now like in year 4 of the Kadarius Toney experiment. Third season with the Chiefs, at least partially. I haven't seen anything that would make me go, oh my God. I mean, look, that return in the Super Bowl will always, in my eyes, make that trade worth it. Right. I know you can sit there and say, come on, it's one play, third round pick. Hey, it really helped win them a Super Bowl. Like, and maybe to them, that's what they say. Maybe they look at it and go, if he makes a half dozen plays like that every year, and he's not killing us with drops and fumbles, like, he's worth it. And you could argue that. Like, I would argue that one play has more value than Skyy Moore's entire career to this point. And I don't mean that as a slam on Skyy Moore. I just genuinely mean that. Like, that one play has meant more to that team than anything Skyy Moore has done combined in 2 years. But, you know, I also look at Skyy Moore and I say, well, he's the control for a few more years, and he's, look, they're both cheap, but Moore is also cheap. I'm not going to be like, crying in my soup either way here. I mean, whatever they decide to do is fine. But it is interesting. Like, Toney was the one who was, Tony's like, I don't need OTAs, I'm good. And then it was, kind of like turned Super Bowl week and do his own little sideshow there for a minute. Mm-hmm. But I kind of to the point, like, they haven't cut him yet. It feels like they're almost just at this point, like, we're not cutting him. That's it. He's going to stay. So maybe he's here, and maybe he's running a million different variations of himself as a running back, as a returner, as a receiver, and they're going to try to make him into, like, more talented Dexter McCluster.
Yeah, I guess that's what they're going to do. And to your point about Skyy Moore, there's been a few clips I have that I have not tweeted out that I've sat on purpose just because of some optics that may not be good for Skyy Moore. There's been a couple of times and a couple of plays that Patrick Mahomes has done a really good thing, and then he throws it to the wrong guy. Yeah. And it doesn't end particularly well. Very shades of the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers when he was doing all those things, and he hit, was that Darrell Williams? He hit in the face mask.
In the face mask, yeah.
While he was vertical.
Yeah.
Horizontal.
Horizontal. If Williams catches that ball, it's the greatest touchdown throw of all time. And he didn't get his hands on the ball, and it hit him square in the face.
That play was a top 100 play for the NFL season. Like, that might have been like 100, and it was an incompletion. Because you know how the NFL will release their top 100 plays of the season? That play was number 100, and it was an incompletion.
The mic'd up for that Super Bowl is one of the more hilarious. Like, it is 20 minutes of the Buccaneers just being absolutely blown away by Mahomes. The entire game. Like, how is he doing this? How is this even possible? Like, and they're winning by 20 like the whole time. It's by the way, speaking of top 100, I'm guessing you saw the Jamar Chase tweet. Well, I shouldn't say his tweet, but the NFL tweet of Jamar Chase talking about who's your number one player on the top 100. And Jamar Chase is like, I won't say his name. I can't say his name. He's awesome. He's really good, but I'm not going to say his name. It's like Joe Burrow. He's going through the whole thing, and I'm like, I know a lot of Chiefs fans were like, oh, he's salty. Which, I mean, hell, he said he's salty.
He did.
But I thought it was great. I actually really thought it was funny. I enjoyed that video.
Yeah, I do. I like your tweet about like the rivalries need to happen. Like, and I love that one is a natural rivalry. I love that one, it doesn't feel forced. It is something that has naturally happened. And I mean, he is incredibly salty, as like he should be. Because he's had his season ended by this team and by Patrick Mahomes so many times. But he adds more fuel to the fire than anyone else in this rivalry. Ja'Marr Chase single-handedly is fueling this rivalry with the Chiefs by saying Pat who, and now I'm not going to say his name, and he adds so much fuel to it, and I love it. And like every time he's pretty much shooting himself in the foot. Look, I'm all for it. I love the Chiefs Bengals rivalry. I don't love that this game is week 2. But that might be good for the Chiefs. They said that Joe Burrow was a full go. I don't know if I have fully embraced the tinfoil hat conspiracy on Joe Burrow. I don't know why. I'm just like, I don't know if this guy is ever going to be healthy again, based off of the track record of that organization. But I don't know. Bengals in week 2 is interesting.
It is interesting. There's a lot going on with the Bengals. Like T. Higgins addressed the elephant in the room with, his trade demand, and he's on the 1-year tag. Basically, it was like, hey, I'm, $21 million is a lot of money. I'm happy to take that, but like also wants a new deal. Doesn't want to sit here and talk about it all the time. Fair enough. Burrow shows up the Slim Shady haircut.
Yeah.
Which I got to tell you, somebody sent that to me. I was like, did you see this? And I was like waking up and looked at it, and I was like, who the hell is that? Like, I genuinely didn't know who it was. And then I looked at it again before I put my glasses on. I'm like, is that Ryan Gosling from Barbie? And then I looked at it again with my glasses on. I'm like, oh, no, whoa, wow. Okay, it's Joe Burrow. Like, had no idea. Had no clue. And it took me like a minute to adjust. It's like, wow, he looks like wildly different.
Right.
You get a haircut. Now I go, you look a little different. Wow, he looks like a different person. Like, he could go on the lam right now if he had to. Hey, listen, I'll say this. It takes guts to radically change your look to that degree. So I guess kudos.
Yeah.
But then, you got that going on. And then, Ja'Marr Chase, a little bit of a salt shaker there with Mahomes. Just fine. I just enjoy that. Like, I don't know. Isn't that the point of a rivalry? Like, it'd be weird and disingenuous if Chase was like, who I love? Mahomes. And I love the Chiefs, and I love everything. Like, screw that. Like, fine, hate him. I would be good. Like, you should. Look, if I was Ja'Marr Chase, I'd hate him. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. If I was a Bengals fan, I would hate the Chiefs. Like, there's no doubt about it. I understand why people hate the Chiefs. Like, I totally understand. Like, if someone is like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a Bills fan, don't like the Chiefs, I'd be like, totally understand. Have a great day.
Who would? Like, right. That is one thing I always laugh at. People are like, they're just so hated. They're hated. Why? I'm like, yeah, because they win all the time.
Right.
You know who nobody hates? The Cardinals. Okay?
Right.
You know why? Because they stink. That's why. Which, by the way, did you see? I saw a tweet earlier before we did the show. Craig Morgan, who is the Cardinals beat writer, columnist, features writer over at Phoenix Sports, tweeted out, Cardinals coach Jonathan Gannon and several members of his staff did a deep dive on the concept of momentum, apparently going back to the wars in the 1800s. After all that research, does momentum exist? Gannon, quote, perhaps, I have no idea. Like, what? I mean, time well spent. You won 4 games last year, and you guys are like, listen, we could work on some different blitzes. We could work on revamping some of the offense.
Nope.
Let's look at the War of 1812 and find out how the U.S. got the momentum.
See if those guys thought they had momentum.
See if Uncle Mo was on the British side there and they were going to D.C. I mean, and then come out of it and they'd be like, I don't know.
Perhaps.
Just lie, man. Say anything.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, hell, just be like, Yeah, it turns out, it's a real thing. Like, I have so many questions about this. Like, the wars in the 1800s, like, are there research papers on momentum in the Civil War? Like, did people write about this? Like, were they poring over journals from, like, Ulysses S. Grant, who was like, we now have the momentum. We're going to turn up. Like, what? Like, what? It's like, yeah, you know when you have the momentum in war? When you're bombing the other side into submission. Like that. That's like momentum in World War II was when we landed on the beaches and started driving them back. Like that. You know, like it's pretty damn easy to see momentum in a war. Okay, like who's taking land? That's more like oh my God. I read that about 5 times to make sure I read that thing correctly.
Yeah.
And it was like, is this real? Is this a real thing? And then there's a whole 2-minute video accompanying it. And I was just floored. There's absolutely, I was like, you know what? I was kind of in on the Cardinals, and now I'm all the way back out again.
Jonathan Gannon is super strange. Like, do you remember like the first clip that came out from like his team meeting? And he's like, do you have that fire in your gut? And it's just like, what are you talking about? He's like, did you guys drive here this morning? He's like, what are you talking about? This is the weirdest hire of all time.
He was that same guy. Who was he talking to? Was it Rondell Moore? Was somebody like when he first got like the first day he was hired, like the day of the presser, and he was like, "We're going to use you like pew pew pew." Pew.
Yes,
you know, like yes, buddy, just call like a double post rap. Like it's okay, you know, like, and not everybody like you can't judge them off the top because like. Some guys have super impressive press conferences, and then everybody's like, this guy's going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And then you have Dan Campbell, like, we're biting kneecaps, which I will say, I am wrong all the time. That was one time I saw that press conference, and everybody was killing him, and I'm like, they're going to love that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're going to play for this guy, because this guy's as authentic as it gets. He doesn't care about being buttoned up and all the rest. Like, this guy's going to go out there and be an absolute lunatic. And players are going to get behind this guy. You know they're not going to get behind Adam Gase, who's just like looking around and trying to be cagey. Like, bro, just be normal. Just give a normal answer. It's fine. Like, but don't do a deep dive on the 1800s wars on momentum and then come out of it with, it's not great. It's not great.
We're going to take a break here, but as you know on this show, we do talk about not just the Chiefs, but the NFL as we have been already. But we're going to talk about some of the biggest storylines from around the NFL. A lot of players don't want to be at camp, and they are not showing up, and some players are getting paid as well. We'll talk about holding outs, holding ins, and new contracts coming up right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
You know when you discover a new binge-worthy show or a song that you bump on repeat and you have to share it with your friends so they can experience just how awesome it is? That's kind of what it feels like when you discover Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. That's such an awesome deal, there's no way you can keep it to yourself. Friends don't let friends overpay for wireless. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan and switch to Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you and your squad with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNTFS. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNTFS. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNTFS. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Matt, have the Chiefs broken the 49ers?
Early return, say maybe. Brandon Ayuk wants 30 plus mil a year. And Trent Williams, who is a first ballot Hall of Famer, is a great player. He's 36 years old and wants more money. And I got to tell you, I'm thinking no.
Right.
From the 49ers? Like,
right.
No. I mean, now his contract, not to get into the minutiae of this, but it's important to note. So his contract runs through 2026. His cap number this year is 31.5. Next year's cap number is 34.1, and then it's 37.8.
What age seasons would those be for him?
Excuse me?
What aged seasons would those be?
So he's in his age 36 season right now. So it'd be 37, 38.
Oh, my gosh.
And he wants it because, like, the guaranteed money of his contract, it's already been paid out now. This is the last year of this guaranteed money.
Mm.
So if they want to guarantee a portion of that, fine. But on the Niners, I'd be like, Trent, we love you, man. But, like, you get paid like a quarterback, for God's sake. So I'm not tacking on any more money at this point. Are you kidding me? But if I'm the 49ers, I'd just be like, that's great. You can hold out. I don't understand why. You know, I've answered this question about 90 times on the radio since these two guys have decided to do this. Teams, it's almost like when a guy holds out or holds in, as Ayuk is doing.
Yeah. You
see this breathless reporting by media people, like, well, yeah, they got to figure it out. What are they going to do? And I'm like, I'm Dwayne. If I was John Lynch, I'd be like, that's nice. Okay. Well, we'll see you September 5th. Well, in their case, actually, Monday Night Football, September 9th. We'll see you September 9th. Like, what are they going to do? Trent Williams giving up all his game checks?
Right.
You know, he's giving up $2 million a week? $2 million for 60 minutes of football. He's giving that up? I don't think so. Brandon Ayuk just not playing? Okay, cool. Okay, well, we'll be fine anyway because we have 900 other All-Pros in the team. Okay. You guys let us know how that goes. Have fun. Like that.
What also is interesting on top of all this is Brock Purdy has probably been the best bargain in football for the Niners, and he's going to need a contract soon. And like that's going to be $55 million probably is what they'll probably have to pay him, APY. But like it's going to be really interesting because I mean right now Jordan Love is holding in and he wants 50 plus APY, which I mean. That's quarterback purgatory right there. Like I'm not all in on Jordan Love. Like I think Jordan Love is a fine quarterback, but like he's not to the echelon where I think you should be paying $50 million a year for a quarterback. But that's the problem, though. The problem is he's up for an extension, and the market dictates he should make $50 million. Now that's the same thing that happened with Daniel Jones, and I don't know if you saw the video from Giants Camp out there of him airmailing a swing pass, a leak route from a running back. She's so bad.
$40 million a year for Daniel Jones.
I'll never understand why they gave him that much money. But they just didn't want to start over again, actually, is what happened. Is they didn't want to start over again, but they should have. They should have started all over.
Well, they gave him that money because they went to the playoffs, and he, to his credit against Minnesota, played well, but everybody played well against Ed Donatell's Vikings defense that year. So it's like, I mean, that's great. He basically threw against air for 4 quarters. And the Giants panicked and were like, here's $40 million. Well, what they should have done is just paid Saquon Barkley and tagged Jones. That's what they should have done.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. And now Jones is getting paid $40 million a year to stink. And Barkley plays for the Eagles. So that really worked out well. Not great. It is funny, like with the quarterback contracts. Yeah, I mean, Purdy, if the Niners are going to pay him, it's going to be $55+ million a year. That's what it's going to
has to be. Uh-huh.
Trevor Lawrence got $55 million a year. In what world is Trevor Lawrence more accomplished than Brock Purdy?
Right.
You know, he's not. So Purdy's going to get that money. And then Jordan Love had one good year, but he was really good. Like they're going to have to pay him in the 50s.
Yeah.
They're going to have to. And then there's Tua, which I still am fascinated by. If Tua gets $55+ million a year, bro, if I was Mahomes, I want 90. Like I'm worth 90 in comparison. But like all kidding aside, if Tua gets 55 a year, if I'm Dak Prescott, I'd be like, yeah, I want 65 a year. And like I'll settle for 60, but like I'm asking for 65, knowing I won't get it, but shooting high. and then, okay, I'll settle for 6. I'm not thinking a dime less because you can't tell me there's any world there's not a $5 million a year difference between me and Tua. So, that's the contract. If he signs that thing and gets 55, the contracts for quarterbacks are going to go absolutely insane, even more than they already have, because you're going to have guys going, come on, man. You kidding me? I'm worth way more than Tua.
Yep.
That's going to be fascinating.
It'll be funny, too, once the Mahomes inevitable extension raise comes down. And then it's going to be like, well, people can't really say, well, I'm better than Mahomes. You can do that. People won't be able to say that. Will they say it? Probably. Yeah. I do think there's a lot of interesting wide receiver things going on. CeeDee Lamb also holding out in Dallas. Wouldn't mind him in Kansas City. That would be kind of fun. But also, as you mentioned, Brandon Ayuk, he's wanted out of there for, it seems like 2 years now. It seems like it's been a long time. Maybe I'm just making that up. And, you mentioned T. Higgins talking about how this could be his last ride with the Bengals. Jamar Chase obviously talking about his contract. He's talking about the elephant in the room. There's a lot of teams that the Chiefs have traditionally competed against that are seeing the cracks, that are seeing the foundational cracks of the teams that they have built show up. Meanwhile, the Chiefs seem pretty steady in what they have. Obviously, Travis Kelce's in the last legs of his career. He's got 2 years left on his deal. They did just sign Chris Jones to a very big contract. He'll be around for a while. Patrick Mahomes will be around for a while. They've got rookies there. Their biggest contracts, Matt, we've talked about, are going to be on the offensive line coming up here at the end of the year. That'll be interesting to see how they manipulate all of that stuff there. But I just look around the AFC and you see a lot of drama, much like the Chiefs were having last year with the Chris Jones holdout saga. All the other AFC contenders and really even NFC contenders are facing similar drama, maybe even more.
I think it's true. The Bills are not in a rebuild, but they are certainly shuffling the deck.
Absolutely.
The Jets, you couldn't have more pressure on a team than the Jets. That team has to win. They have to win now.
Got to go to Egypt too. So,
well, listen. Anytime you can go see the pyramids, because you've been obsessed with them for 30 years,
got to take it up.
And listen, you could have scheduled it any time, but it's got to be during mandatory minicamp. It has to be. I love the explanation of I did it based on last year's schedule. Aaron, you've been in the league 20 years, bud. How about, I don't know, May? Come on, I just stop. But yeah, the Jets are under a ton of pressure. The Ravens lost a slew of players.
They did, yeah.
And they lost Mike McDonald. The Bengals we've talked about, they've got a ton going on. They got 2 stars who want to be traded. They've got Chase who wants a new deal, and the owner coming out and just being like, yeah, he's not getting one right now. And then, Burrow, based on the haircut, might go on a world tour soon. So there's a lot going on. The only AFC contender that I would say confidently, they're probably either at the same amount of stress level as the Chiefs or less, is Houston.
Yeah.
Because Houston, what is the pressure, right? You're expected to be better, but if you go 10-7 this year and losing the divisional round, nobody's going to be like, oh, it's a failure. It's
right.
They're built.
Yeah.
But the Chiefs, when you go back to back, there's a pressure in the sense that you are obviously trying to do something that no team has ever done in the Super Bowl year. There is pressure in that. However, if the Chiefs lose in the playoffs this year, you'd have to be an absolute monster of a human being to just be like, what are we going to do? They're going to fire everybody. What are you going to be that guy who's screaming fire Veach because they're losing an AFC title game or something like that?
Right.
So in that regard, how much pressure is there? It's almost all upside. Hey, if you do this, you're historic. If you don't do this, well, you're still a dynasty.
Right.
How much pressure are you really, truly under? But, of course, that's everybody might feel differently.
Look, all teams, by the time we're recording this podcast, all teams have reported for training camp. And that means football is essentially here. Very exciting for that to happen. NFL Top 100 players will be coming out shortly, too, so I can't wait to argue about a list that players themselves don't really even care about filling out. So super excited to argue with people online about that. I just saw this headline here. This is going back to Joe Burrow's haircut. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow explains viral bleach blonde buzz cut. I got bored.
Okay.
I also remember him didn't he have like decently long hair during like media day? So like all of his headshots for like around the league are going to be him. He pulled a Jimmy Butler is what happened. Is that Jimmy Butler, you know how he shows up for media day with a crazy haircut. And then he then shows up the next day looking normal. So all of his headshots for the rest of the year look like him in that crazy haircut. But he did the opposite. Joe Burrow did the opposite. He said, I'm going to have my normal haircut. I'm going to show up with a crazy haircut when practice comes out and practice matters.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, we all get bored.
We do.
Like I said, I'm of two minds. On one hand, I respect it. He was just like, listen, I've got these flowing locks, and I've had the same haircut for God knows how long, and now we're going to go completely off of that beaten path, and we're going to go another direction. On the other hand, it genuinely took me like 3 or 4 looks at the picture to realize who he was. So, but then there's also like, listen, Justin Herbert's got facial hair now.
Yeah.
Remember when he cut all his hair off? Remember that?
Yeah, and it was like in the middle of the week, and he had like an offensive line coach do it.
Yeah, it was like he completely changed his look. Like at one point in time, Mahomes is eventually going to do it. Right?
Yeah.
Like Mahomes is going to show up one day with like a buzz cut, and everybody's just going to be like, "Oh my god!" Like what? And then I look forward to the think pieces. Like I can think of one outlet in particular that I will not name, but that everybody ought to know who I'm thinking about. That is just going to put out like was Mahomes' talent in his hair, like when he throws like his first pick after a buzz cut? I look forward to that. Should he get paid more? Is this because Clark Hunt's not paying enough for him to go to a proper barber? It's just like, you just know like the think pieces are going to be nonstop coming out of there.
Yeah, it's going to be. He talked about it on the quarterback series, how he's like, I can't be a dad and have a mohawk.
Yeah.
Basically,
now he's going to be a dad at 3 and have a mohawk. So he's still rolling.
I did like his comments on like how many kids he's going to have, and he's like, I'm done. I'm not going for the. He didn't say Phillip Rivers record, but I said Phillip Rivers record. But he's not going to go for that. He was trying to break every record on the field and off the field, sadly. But we didn't mention Alvin Kamara. There was thoughts that he could hold out, but he said, I ain't stupid when it comes on not holding out. He didn't want to get fined. And like, I respect that to a degree. Alvin Kamara's like, yeah, that's a lot of money. I don't know if I can afford for all that money to come out of the bank account, come out of the checks when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and if you're Alvin Kamara, you probably also realize like you're a bit of an older running back, and the reality is like you're probably not getting paid a whole lot more. So maybe not the worst idea to just show up and play and take the check and hope you have a great year. And I mean, most guys don't have the leverage to do that. Like we hear about star players, right? Like if you look at the Chiefs, how many guys could legitimately hold out and you'd be like, all right, they got to pay that dude. Apparently not Chris Jones, who the Chiefs was just like, that's cool. See you in September. I mean, Kelsey, Mahomes, obviously. Is there anybody else?
No, I don't think other Chiefs. No, I think it legit.
So like he doesn't count, obviously.
Right. I legitimately think it would just be Mahomes and Kelsey.
Like I don't think there's any. Like wouldn't it be hilarious if like Juwan Taylor was just like more money? Just held out like Toney. Tony's like, I want my deal rework. Like, how many guys? Maybe the only other guy I'd throw in there, maybe just because of how important he is Creed Humphrey. Like, if he was like, you're extending me or I'm not showing up, and you can play whoever, you can play Norzad at center.
Right.
Like, maybe him, but like, as great as I think Trey Smith is, like, I don't think they'd just be like, all right, well, we'll see you when we see you, man. Like, I don't think, like, most guys just don't have the juice to do that.
For sure.
So it's, like, if you're Kamara, as terrific of a player as he's been, I don't know that you got the juice to hold out there and get the Saints to pay you. And also, Mickey Loomis might go to Alvin Kamara and be like, listen, Alvin, we are $900 million over the cap next year. At this point, I am eating 3-day-old pizza because we can't afford anything else.
Can you pay us?
Right, like, we are looking for a handout. We're gonna pass the hat at the Superdome every game this year, and we're gonna hope for the best. Okay. I mean, for those who aren't aware, the Saints every year enter the offseason some absolutely hilarious amount of money over the cap. Like it's ridiculous. And then they've got to beg, borrow, and steal just to get under it by a couple of pennies. Like this upcoming year, over the cap projects the cap to be 260, which I think is low. I think it'll be higher than that. The point still is going to stand. So the Chiefs are really low in space. They have 13.3. They can roll over what they have this year and get the 30, that kind of middle of the league. The Ravens are already over that cap number by 3.5, Bills 3.7, Texans 5.6, right on and on. And then you get to the Saints, who are $91 million over the threshold. And they've restructured everybody so many times that they can't even cut them.
Right.
Because all the guaranteed money has been forced forward. So, like, they just have to keep restructuring until these guys have, like, a $30 million void season.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. It is the most... Like, it's so mismanaged that once a year I'll tweet about it, and I get Saints fans just like a deluge of it. You don't understand that the cap's fake, and I'm like, well, apparently neither does Mickey Loomis, because you guys are so beyond screwed. Like, the contracts are hilarious. I mean, Alvin Kamara next year. By the way, this might be why he's not holding out. Next year, his contract calls for him to get paid $29 million, and they can't cut him. Wow. I mean, I shouldn't say they can't. They could cut him. They'd eat $10 million. So they could cut him, but like they're still eating $10 million.
Right.
And then, oh, by the way, there's a void year after that for Kamara, and the year after that, and then the year after that. So, like, I mean, it's just like in 2026, Cam Jordan is not on the team. And he's getting paid $15 million. Taysom Hill's not on the team, getting paid $9.7. Demario Davis not on the team, $8.7.
Yep.
It's just Tyrann Mathieu not on the team, $7.2.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're paying like $70 million in void money in 2026. Like, just to get the hell out of this. It's ridiculous. But yeah, go on. Tell me how fake the cap is. I'll listen. Yeah. So in any event, I know we got to die. Yeah, Alvin Kamara not holding out.
Good for him. I do think it's good for him. I respect the self-awareness in a league that sometimes lacks it. I respect having the self-awareness. Matt, last thing I want to talk about, let's go back to the AFC West. Jim Harbaugh is the first, not necessarily opening press conference, but first press conference of training camp. He says it felt like the first day of training camp was like being born, and he felt like he was coming out of the womb.
I read that, and I'm not going to lie to you, I felt very uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, I felt very uncomfortable reading it back to you.
Do you have a memory of that? And, like, isn't that God's way of protecting us that we don't have a memory of that?
Right.
Like, oh, my God. He's a great coach. He is a weird dude, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he was at the presser in full, like, wearing cleats.
Yep.
I'm like, what are you doing? Like, are you running with the team? You playing? Like, what's going on? Very bizarre. Very bizarre. Like, I have a lot of questions, but I'm not sure I want any of them answered. Like, he is a very good coach. I think he will get that team turned around, but he's a weird guy. There's no two ways of putting that. I have been told some stories I can't repeat on here about him. Like, not negative necessarily, just like things about him that are like, like, yeah, okay, it tracks. I can see that.
Yeah. I think I think you kind of got to be a little odd to be this profession, right?
Oh yeah, that's definitely true.
But he is odder than odd. Let me read the full quote here.
Right.
To add context, as a big J journo would. It's like New Year's Day. It feels like being born. It feels like coming out of the womb, Harbaugh said Wednesday via ESPN's Chris Rim. You're in there. It's comfortable and safe, and now you're out. You're born. Lights are on. It's bright. Chaos. People looking at you. People talking at you, and it feels good to have it happen.
Okay. It doesn't make me feel any less weird about this entire thing.
No, you shouldn't. I wanted it actually to make it more uncomfortable. Is why I read the full thing, because it makes it more uncomfortable.
It's just, oh my God. It's, yeah, Just say it feels good to be back, man.
Yeah. You don't have to.
Nobody was looking like, I'll tell you what it feels like. And they just go launch it as a huge thing. Like, Jim, it's fine. Just feels good to be back. Feels good to see the guys ready for another season.
So on that note, I think it's going to do it for this episode of that football show. Appreciate our sponsors, Ben Holiday, Bottled and Bond Bourbon, and folks at Holiday Distillery for helping the show become possible. We really do appreciate them. Go check them out in Weston, Missouri if you are on your way to or from St. Joe and trying to beat the summer heat. Go check them out at Holiday Distillery. That's going to do it for us here. I'm Tucker Franklin. That's Matt Verderame. We'll be back next week. Who knows when we'll be back next week, but we will be back next week. Training camp tours will be in full swing for Matt. I'll be up at Chiefs training camp. We'll be at Chiefs training camp at the same time, so maybe we'll just record a podcast there. Who knows? But we will talk to you guys very soon. We'll catch you then.